Asil na probinsya tayo.
Good day, learners! Teacher Jessa again, your science teacher. Go now to your comfortable place so we can start our lesson. Alright, let's begin. So here are some pictures of organ system. Can you name them? Okay, you're right. So we have circulatory system, nervous system, respiratory system, digestive system, skeletal system, and of course, muscular system. For this week, we will be discussing the Quarter 3, Module 3 with the title Homeostasis and the Nervous System. In this video, we will talk about how the nervous system coordinates and regulates feedback mechanism to maintain homeostasis. Let's begin. Our body is designed in such a way that all the organs and organ systems work together in order to maintain homeostasis. All the organ systems are controlled by the nervous system. The nervous system is your body's decision and communication center. The nervous system coordinates and regulates the body's feedback mechanism to maintain homeostasis. It is a highly organized and complex collection of nerves, specialized cells that transmit messages to and from the brain and spinal cord. The basic unit of a nervous system is the neuron or nerve cell. Neurons are specialized cells that transmit messages to and from the brain and to the rest of the body. Neuron is composed of a cell body which contains the nucleus and is covered by the myelin sheath, with an axon terminal at its end. The Schwann cell is what produces the myelin sheath. Dendrite is called the receptor site of neuron as signals originate at its end. The dendrites receive the impulses and carry these towards the cell body, while the axon carries the impulses away from the cell body, which passes along the different parts of the neuron. The nodes of Ranvier allow the generation of a fast electrical impulses along the axon. Axons then pass the impulses to the dendrites of other neuron cell body in the muscle cells. The classifications of neurons are: first, sensory or afferent neurons. It receives messages from the senses and sends them to the CNS or the central nervous system. Second is the motor or afferent neurons. They send messages from the central nervous system to the different parts of the body. The nervous system controls every part of your daily life. There are two divisions of the nervous system. First is the central nervous system, and it consists of the brain and the spinal cord. Second is the peripheral nervous system, and it involves all of the nerves. These two divisions work together to transmit and process sensory information and then coordinate this to different bodily functions. The central nervous system receives and processes all the information from all of the body. It controls the entire organ system of the body. The major parts are the brain and the spinal cord. The brain consists of cerebrum, the major outer part of the brain. It is divided into two hemispheres, the left and right. It initiates movements and regulates temperature. Cerebellum, at the back of the brain, it controls balance and fine muscle movement. Brainstem, at the bottom of the brain, This connects cerebrum to the spinal cord. It is divided into three parts: midbrain, pons, and medulla. The limbic system, composed of amygdala, hippocampus, thalamus, and hypothalamus. It is the part of the brain involved in our behavioral and emotional responses, especially when it comes to behaviors we need for survival like feeding, reproduction, caring for our young, and fight or flight. The four lobes of the brain are frontal lobe, and it is responsible for cognitive function and movement. We have the parietal lobe, is responsible for processing touch, pain, temperature, and movement. Occipital lobe is responsible for vision. And lastly, the temporal lobe. It is responsible for speech, hearing, and memory. The skull is like a bony helmet, while the meninges are layers of tissue. Cerebrospinal fluid is watery fluid that flows in and around the brain, and the spinal cord that cushions both parts.
We have the cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral, and coccygeal. The spinal cord is an elongated bundle of neurons connected to the brain via brainstem. It goes all the way down to the tailbone at our lower back. Think of it like an information highway as sensory messages and movement commands travel up and down on it to serve the body. It is protected by the bones and is divided into 5 sections. We have the cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral, and coccygeal. The peripheral nervous system. It is made up of the rest of the body's nerves and the sensory. It carries impulses from the sensory nerves to the central nervous system and from the central nervous system to the motor nerves. Somatic is responsible for voluntary movements or activities that are done under conscious will.
The autonomic peripheral nervous system is in charge of involuntary body functions like breathing and heartbeat, or activities that are done without conscious will. Some of its functions include controlling the muscles in the heart and smooth muscles in the internal organs such as intestines, bladder, and uterus.
Autonomic nervous system is further divided into sympathetic and parasympathetic.
The fight or flight response is controlled by sympathetic division. It controls the internal functions of the body in times of stress, stimulating the body to use energy. In addition, it is responsible in the acceleration of heart rate, constriction of blood vessels, and the rise of blood pressure. The parasympathetic division tries to conserve energy doing rest or digest. It is the opposite of the fight or flight response. It controls the internal function at rest. It slows down the heart rate and increases the intestinal and gland activities. Reflexes is an involuntary movement which is controlled by the somatic nervous system. Examples are pulling your hand back when you touch something hot, jumping when you hear a loud sound, the knee-jerk reflex. In order to maintain a stable internal environment, the body has to be provided with that needs to survive: oxygen, nutrients, and waste removal. This means all the organ systems have to collectively work together to maintain homeostasis, constantly adjusting to changes. Homeostasis is a condition wherein the human body system is maintained in balance despite changing external factors.
The nervous system is the control center of the body for homeostasis, as it is in charge of monitoring, controlling, and regulating all the body systems.
If ever anything inside and outside the body deviates from the norm, signals are sent through the nervous system. The central nervous system works together with the peripheral nervous system to coordinate different parts of the body functions to bring the body back to homeostasis. The endocrine system. As mentioned earlier, this body system regulates the body activities by secreting hormones. These hormones travel from the endocrine glands through the bloodstream to go directly to the tissues and organs that are needed. Respiratory system. In this system, overseen by the nervous system, thus carbon dioxide and oxygen gas exchange. This happens in the alveoli of the lungs. Blood passes through the tiny capillaries in the alveoli with oxygen and carbon dioxide diffusing in and out of the blood. Gas exchange is important because oxygen is needed for cellular respiration and carbon dioxide is carried away as a waste. It also maintains blood pH. When a person breathes so fast, there isn't enough carbon dioxide in the blood, meaning the blood pH is too basic. When a person breathes too slowly, there is too much carbon dioxide, meaning the blood pH is too acidic. Excretory system. Guided by the nervous and endocrine systems, this system gets rid of waste materials to maintain homeostasis. The kidneys are the main organs for excretion, a filtering system that removes excess water, salts, and other substances in the blood. The leftover liquid is now urine, which is then excreted out of the body through the urethra. Hormones are also involved with the kidneys. For example, the hypothalamus stimulates the kidneys to produce antidiuretic hormone to produce more concentrated urine when the body does not have enough water. And the kidney hormone, erythropoietin, stimulates bone marrow to produce red blood cells as needed. As the body systems work together to maintain homeostasis, feedback mechanism or systems that respond to changes occur in the body. When there is a stimulus or change in the environment, feedback mechanisms respond by increasing or reducing the change to bring the systems back to normal. Positive feedback increases the change, meaning there will be more of a product or a moving away from a target point. For example, more clotting to prevent excessive bleeding. Negative feedback decreases the change, meaning there will be less of a product. Or an action that moves toward a target point. For example, if the body's temperature is too high, the body will trigger responses to decrease body temperature. When a response to a stimulus is increased, positive feedback is happening. Positive feedback is less common than negative feedback. Some examples of positive feedback include milk production. After birth, there will be high level of prolactin in the body of a woman in order to stimulate milk production. The more the baby suckles and needs milk, the more prolactin and therefore more milk is produced. Blood clotting. Wherever there is a wound or injury in the body, signals are sent to platelets that are more and more platelets can rush to the site of injury to form a clot. When a response to a stimulus is decreased or reduced, negative feedback is happening. Most of the body's feedback systems belong to this category. Negative feedback allows the body to stabilize back to homeostasis. Some examples of negative feedback include temperature regulation. When the body's temperature rises, the brain and skin receptors sense the change, triggering several responses in order to decrease body temperature. The skin sweat and blood vessels near the skin surface dilate. Controlled blood glucose level. When the glucose levels in the blood are too high, the hormone insulin from the pancreas is stimulated to absorb glucose and convert glucose into glycogen. As the blood glucose levels go down, less insulin is needed. But when blood glucose levels are too low, another hormone from the pancreas called glucagon is produced in order to convert glycogen back to glucose, thereby increasing the level of glucose in the blood. When the body is not in homeostasis, organ failure or diseases could happen like mental health disorder, such as anxiety, panic disorder, and also we have depression. Worldwide, many suffers from depression, especially this time of pandemic. Depressed people need to communicate their loved one about their condition. If not addressed, results to loss of many lives. So, how do we keep our body and organ systems healthy? In your PE lesson, exercise is needed in a daily basis to avoid such diseases. To maintain our body and organ systems in good shape, strive to do the following. First, perform regular exercise. Second, refrain from smoking. Third, get plenty of rest. Fourth, drink 8 to 10 glasses of water a day. And lastly, eat a well-balanced diet. Comprehension check. The nervous system is our body's decision and communication center. It is made up of the central and peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system is composed of the brain and the spinal cord. The peripheral nervous system contains all the nerves outside the brain and the spinal cord. It is further classified as autonomic and somatic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is also further classified into sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. All the organ systems are controlled and regulated by the nervous system through a feedback mechanism, while the endocrine system secretes hormones that regulate all the body activities. Homeostasis is the maintenance of equilibrium of the body. Feedback mechanism allow organism to maintain homeostasis. Types of feedback mechanisms are positive feedback, or an increase in a reaction, and negative feedback, a decrease in reaction. That ends our lesson. I hope you have learned something. Now, it's time for you to answer your modules. See you again on another episode of our lesson. Keep safe!